Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph. We're starting from the Mishnah. It's around 12 lines from the top. Mitzvahs Hanisrafim. One of the Abba Mitzvahs Bezdin is Reifa. So the Mishnah Mitzvah Hanisrafim. How would they do it? They would sink him into the ground, the zevel in the benor ad akuvaisav till his knees, so he can't move.
Why do you need such a physical?
Wait, we're not finished because it's better for him. Because if he starts moving around, he's going to get hurt. They took him. It's yeah. So he says, and they put a hard kerchief, and in the around the hard kerchief they put a soft one. Why? Because they put it around his neck and they stop pulling. But if it's a hard kerchief, it'll scrape his neck. That's not part of the mitzvah of sefer. It shouldn't hurt him. So we put soft. And it's not for chenek. It's to make him open his mouth. Look what it says. So he says that they put in the hard suda because that's the pressure point that opens his mouth, filling the choking. They wrap it around his neck. The two Eidim that testified against him, each one pulls from one side. No, just till he opens his mouth. Now comes the exciting part. Then they light the lead. Yeah, they light the lead and they throw it inside his mouth. And they throw it into his throat, down the lead. It's they throw the lead down. And it shrivels up his whole insides.
How many people are mad watches?
Well, why can't they put gasoline and burn the whole thing?
No, 1 second. He wanted to talk about burning him completely. If meaning he could die through chenek, and he has to do sefer. And if he would have died through this pulling from both Adam from both sides, if he would have died that way, the mitzvah of sefer wouldn't have been fulfilled. So he says, I have a different plan. You take tongues, like pliers, and you open his mouth against his will.
It's like a dentist.
Yeah. You know the way. Stein is going some dentist. He says it's 2/3. He says, which one? He says, you figure it out. Somebody's got to say that. No, that's it. So he says, a madlik is apsila, they light the lead and they throw it down his throat. And they throw it down his throat and it burns his whole inside. There was a story with a Baskain that was Masana committed adultery. And they surrounded her with bundles of wood, twigs, ushafu, and they burnt her, like you said. That Bezdin was the Bezdin Shel Tzdukim. If you look in the Rashi says that Bezdin, they didn't hold from Gzeir Shabbos or anything. They learned the pasuk Kipshutit, like the Gemara will explain very, very soon. In fact, the Gemara, my psila, what is this wick that you're talking about? So the Gemara, it's a wick that's which is aver is lead, and they throw it down. It gets very hot. In fact, you want to know what?
Which Ava is? For which Ava?
No, Ava. No, it's called Ava is lead. Allah.
It's a lead.
It's a lead. Yeah. No. In fact, you want to know where do we know that? Says how do you know you don't burn the whole goof like you wanted to say? Says you want.
You use lead.
Okay, so he's first. Let's understand. How do you know you don't burn his whole goof? So if you want to ask your sefer, we learn a Gzeir Shava. It says sefer by the mitzvah of sefer it says a bas koyin. It says by ish tesarif, and by adas koyach it says asher hikrivu asrufim. It says that the sufim, meaning the adas koyach, came and they brought and burned the ketores. So just like the Malahalam says in the Neshama Ragov Kayim, just like over there, what happened? That the Neshama was taken away, the insides was burned, but the goof remained whole. Avkan, so too by Mrs. Bezdin, my sefer.
Who was Magal's kids and the burning the same? Who was it?
Not of Avir, we're going to get to it. Yeah, one.
So what's that to do with Kairach?
No, it's safe. It's a Gzeir Shava. It says Srufim by Adas Kairach, and it says by a Bas Kain Shezitza, also Seifa. Seifa is the punishment of Seifa. Yeah, they were burned by the Ketores. The Ketores went into them and burnt insides. The goof remained whole. And very similar, Rabbi Lezer, he says, from a different story, we have Gzeira Shava. Asya, Sefer B'nai Yaron. We learn out from Sefer B'nai Yaron. What does it say by Yaron? It says that also, he kriv, K'tez Lefnei Hashem, and the Yotze Eish Ben Hashmai, V'sarfa Isam. So it's a Lashon Sefer. Ma'ala Halam B'Sefer Neshama. Just like by the story of Nadav Avihu, only the insides were burnt by Guf Kaim, but the Guf remained whole. Afghan, so here by Bas Kohen Shezinza is L'Seifes and L'Shama of Guf Kaim. Only the insides get burnt, but the Guf remains whole. So, in fact, the man the Yolov Adas Keirach, the one that learns the din from Adas Keirach. How do we know only the insides was burnt? Maybe the outside was also burnt. The Ksiv, says in the pasuk, Es machtois, the pans, achatoim ha'ila of these sinners, b'nafsheisam, in the neshamas, that's what it got to. But shahais in the neshama surface, nishmas in the surface, v'guf kayim. Only the neshama was burnt, but the guf remained
The
whole.
neshama is inside the guf?
Yeah.
So we said the neshama is the
Neshama is belev, as they state
It's not a
Shulchan Aruch.
material item. Neshama is material.
Yes, it is. That's
In those days it was.
look. You could see a whole goof, and nothing is missing. Obviously, there's another mechanism that keeps the goof going. It has to be the neshama. What about Rebbe Lezer? Why doesn't he learn the din from Adas Karich? Why does he learn it out from the brothers of Nadav Avihu? So you know what he say from Mamashi? He says, Nadav Avihu, that they were burned completely outside too. It says over there, Benafshaisam. I'm sorry. He says, he said it wrong. Rebbe Lezer, who learns it out from Nadav Avihu, why doesn't he learn it out from Adas Koyach? So he says, he said from Mamashi, the Adas Koyach were completely burned. They're gufim also. That's what Rebbe Lezer says.
Isn't there, they went into the ground?
That was swallowed later, but first they goof.
And then they were swallowed
Yeah,
in?
yeah. So my benafsheisam. What does it mean benafsheisam? Sheneschayv sefer al iske nafsheisam. They were mechuyev the punishment of sefer because of nafsheisam. Nafsheisam means kidei shlokish. Like said, what is this that it says in Tehillim Lamed Hey? It says bechamfei, the flattering, the chanifus, the flattering, lage, and the mockery. Moig is that they took mizunis, that he offered them mizunis. Charik alai shinemai. The Eibushter grinded. The Sar of Gehenna, the head of Gehenna, grinded his teeth. It says because of the flattering that Koirach flattered all the Adas Koirach, he wined them, dined them, he gave them everything. So the Sar of Gehenna grinded his teeth against them. Yeah. He grinded his teeth, meaning that he killed them. He brought them into Gehenna, swallowed them later. What do you mean out of it? That's you don't know the earth opened up. The Gehenna opened up.
Yeah, but that was like grinding his teeth.
What?
It's very gory.
What?
It's very gory. You know what gory means?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay, so and the one that learns out from the Bnei Yarin, Nadav Avihu were killed. So Menalei, yes. So how does he know that Nadav Avihu was only on the inside? Maybe the guf was burnt also. So if you wanted to see Hashem, they died before Hashem. K misa like a regular natural misa. Natural misa, when somebody dies, his guf remains whole.
You got a heart attack.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, or aneurysm. Zog the mother like my father. Zog the mother v'idach. My father had an aneurysm.
The brain aneurysm?
Yeah. It was very fast. 1, 2, 3. Shabbos, he's gone.
But no, I said, but he woke up. How do you know he has an aneurysm?
No, he woke up. He passed away from that.
It's passed away in the middle of
Because
sleep,
it burst. No, he was up. It happened right after Shachas.
He was at home.
No, in Shul.
Sure.
And he came home. He said he wasn't feeling good. He called that Tzala, and then they took him to the hospital. And then Shabbos, he passed away. So you might have eaten. Acha, Kileya Bal Hadeya Rishayna. Madua Einu Leimed Esadim Bnei Yadim. Why doesn't he learn out from the Bnei Yadim? Why does he have to learn out Dafke from Kedef Hadasei? So he says Ahu Sefer Mamash Avari, because the Tana the Tanakama who says you learn out from Hadas Kedef, he says I couldn't learn it out from Nadav Avihu because Nadav Avihu their goof was burned. Says the Gemara, how could you say that? It says Vayimusa. Musa means like a natural death, that the goof remains whole. Says Gemara Daschul, Behu, Gavoy. It started off naturally. The insides were burned. Came Misa like a natural Misa. First, only the inside burned. Tiny that we learned in the Brayso. Wait, and then it continued. Like we learned in the Brayso, but Yisman, the story, Shnei Chutn Shalet Yotzim Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. 2 strings of fire came out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'nechliku la'aba, and it turned into 4 strings. V'nichnasu shnayim v'chait mishal zeh, u'shnayim v'chait mishal zeh, usafim. 2 of the strings went into the nostrils of Nadav, and 2 of them went into the nostrils of Avihu. And then he says, and then after it burned the insides, himshich alisav games gufim mebachutz. That's what he brings down from Rashi, or from the Aruch. But it says Oisam is at miyut, which means that there was something that was not burnt. Obviously, the goof wasn't burnt. Because you want to know, you got it wrong. Oisam, they were burnt, but their begotten was perfect. You need any clothing? There's soup. It's over there. So, you mother, when they live. What? No.
Who are you talking to?
Another Maviyu, it says, not Oisam is a miyut, so the chayv
Why
is
is
a
Oisam
miyut.
a miyut?
That's how it always, Oisam is always learned as a miyut. Zeyu, nish, was. And not the goof. Says, you want to know, Oisam, the goof was also burned. Not the suits that they were wearing. And now you can get a suit.
No, new suit.
2 suits for free.
Free.
Zag the Yimada, V'neilev, let us learn out, Parim Anasafim. Let us learn out from Parim Anasafim. It's supposed to be burnt. The Chatas, Hapnimi, it was burnt completely. So Malahalam Sefer Mamish, just like the bull was completely burnt, Avkan was Sefer Mamish. We say over here by Bas Kain Shazinsa, is Besefer, say it means Mamish, just like by Parim Anasafim, it says Sefer. It means completely. So Yimada Mistabim Adam Havalei Megav. It's reasonable to say, to learn out from Adam, like the story from Kerev Hadas, or Nadav. These are people, not from a bull that's burnt. That's not where we're learning out. Mrs. Bezin has to do with a person. Shekain, Adam, number 1. We're dealing with who's being burned. The one that sinned. Did the bull sin? No. He's a kapara for the one that sinned. But the bull itself didn't sin. Neshama. You're talking about by here, the Neshama Getaris Duchen Sefer. Here, by the Purim, you first shacht it. So the Neshama is shenavek from the Behemoth. And then when you burn it, there's no neshama. So it's not the same thing.
So did the goof.
Right? And we want that the safe has always not neshama. Pigul. Pigul means it's is only by something by behema. It's not shy by Adam. So it's not similar. So if I could show you things in common, Adam is more in common with the Purim. I mean, why? Because this Maisa, by Paran and Safim, is a mitzvah. It's a ma'aseh that you're fulfilling the mitzvah Hashem. Somebody sins,
You have to burn it.
he has to bring a korban chatas. This is yours. Was tut mit der korban chatas? You burn it. So you, by burning the korban chatas, you make kaim mitzvah Hashem. You kaim a mitzvah. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam,
So you
she'akol
burn
neheh
the person
b'dvarei.
also mitzvah.
Correct. That's what he's saying. And so, and burning the Abba Mrs. Bezin is also a mitzvah. But Adas Kairach, hat es damit a mitzvah, verkehrt. Right, the Avaryonim, and there's another Avi also. So the Gemara, and another thing, Leteris. Leteris meaning these mitzvahs, the Abba Mrs. Bezin and Param Nesafim, is for the future generations. The story of Nadu Avi, or the story with Adas Kairach, is a Moleke Maisa, one mice that happened in the past, but it's not something that's Leteris. So the Gemara, yeah, you're right. But Hanach Nefishin. But if you start counting which one has more things in common, Adam has more in common with the stories of Nadav Avihu have 4 things in common, versus then this has only a bull has only 2 things in common. So the one that learns out from Adas Kerich that the goof, that I'm sorry, only the neshama was. Yes, it's gone. Yeah, because there's more in common with Adam. So the one that learns out from Adas Kairach, right? Why don't you want to learn out from the children of Aaron that only the neshama was burnt and not the goof? So another Havi, yeah. So because he holds a who's safe from Mamish Havi. There, by another Havi, the goof was Mamish burned. In fact, let us learn out from another Havi that the goof has to be burnt. If you're saying the goof was burned, it says safer there. What makes you make a Gzeda Shava to the Adas Kairach where the goof wasn't burnt? maybe safer, we should make a Gzeira Shabbat to another Avi where the goof was burnt and you have to burn the goof. So you it says in the Pasuk, you're supposed to, you have to love your fellow Jew as yourself. So you give him the lightest misa. Burning his goof ain't that easy. If you burn his insides, it's 1, 2, 3. It shrivels and it's done. That's what they said. It was really
Yeah,
fast.
but why you have to burn this outside?
Right, that's what he's saying. That's
But
why
after the- what Misa Yofa?
he says,
After
Misa.
he's dead, it doesn't matter.
No, Misa Yofa, because if you want to kill him by burning his outsides, that's a prolonged death. So he says that's why we don't want to learn it out from Nadav Avihu who had the prolonged death. Better from Nadav Kayach. In fact, if once you already know the svara of Rav Nachman that you're supposed to choose the lightest death, so why do we have to make all these Gzeira Shabbos? It's simple. Gzeira Shabbos, what do we need a Gzeira Shabbos? Zicha, the fastest death is you put a lead inside and he dies right away. What do I need to make Gzeira Shabbos that there says Seifa, here says Seifa, and that's how we know it's supposed to be only on the inside. So you might and not the goof. So you might love Gzeira Shabbos, have a minute saves in the Shabbos, have a goof, Kayim, love Seifa. If not for the Gzeira Shabbos, I would have thought, hey, you burn his insides, but his outsides it still remains. That's not slave at all.
We don't see
It's
that.
slave call. We don't see
It's
that.
safer.
And if you're worried, but state you have to make a fast death. So make a big bonfire like you make on Lag Beiman and just throw them in the Kalachiv and they'll go faster. Yeah, the less of Lag Lager, so you should burn faster. So that's what he's come to teach us. He's saying the Shabbos say, hey, Sreifa. Even without the goof being burned, it's still called Seifa. And that's, once we have the Gzeira Shabbos, that's called Seifa, sure, we're going to choose the lighter one, that's the lighter one. So the Gemara kvar hoye Moshe ve'Aaron halch maderech. Moshe ve'Aaron were walking, and another Avi halch nachareim. Another Avi were walking after them. They call you so achareihem, and all the Yom were going after another Avi. Amalei another Avi. Another said, "Hey, Moshe, you must shnei skenim alolu. When are these two old men are going to die?" Me and you will have a chance to lead the generation. Oh, this thing you want to say to them.
Revolutionaries.
Yeah, I love the kahate. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Hanida mi kivas mi mitchenzen vevet bagrobim vemen." So I can tell you a story. My Zayda, the Beider Rav, he was sitting on the Beider Rav. Beider, yeah. So Dobrovsky, Heshke Dobrovsky's father was also a Rav, and he learned with the Beider Rav. And he describes the Beider Rav was a Ga'an Shebegeinen. And the Rogatchover wrote about him that. Anyway, so the Beider Rav was one of the Hayonim that were judging the Rogatchover's Eidim. And he lost. So the Rogatchover's he lost the case. He came for Dinteya to the Beider Rav. The Eidim, yeah. And the Eidim lost the case. He tells the Beider Rav, "Ich will nicht fahren mit dein Levaya." So the Beider Rav answered, "Aber ich will fahren mit deiner." And that's it given. It wasn't long after. It's crazy.
He was angry.
So here also the Eibishter says, "Mitchenzem vevet bagrobim vemen." This is what people say. Nefishi gamli. So, yeah, kosher hiddish fislach. Nefishi gamli. Savi, he says there are gemalim that are old gemalim, but the teine maschri the hugne, but they have young skin. You want to bring out that Moshe and Aaron, they're going to outlive the Nadav Avi, even though they're much younger. But here there's a whole bunch of mafashim because we know so many other reasons why Nadav Avi died. Either they came in with drinking wine, or they never had children, never married, right? So here people want to explain this wasn't a reason why they should die, and really they didn't do anything wrong because it says B'Kroivai, the Eibishter said. Moshe had gesagt, I would have thought that it would be me and Aaron. Instead, the Eibishter took Nadav Avi. Now we see Nadav Avi is noch größer. Aber Nadav Avi hat gewusst, as the Nennste zum Eibishter, and the Eibishter is going to take them. And here they thought for sure it's going to happen very soon because Moshe and Aaron, they reached such high levels in Kedusha. So that's what they were banking on, at least in a derogatory way, to say that was the reason that they should get killed. They didn't speak like they spoke because they were on such a high level. Anyway, meaning Moshe Aaron was on such a high level. I'm going to have a Lama Talmud Chacham Doima. Now he's giving advice to a Talmud Chacham. To what is the Talmud Chacham Deima Lifnei Amaretz?
So where are the picture?
No, you're all in the picture. Stop it. To what is a Talmud Chacham? Everybody lower than you is the Amaretz. So what is a Talmud Chacham considered by Amaretz? Betchila Deima Lekitn Shalzah. At the beginning, he's like a golden jug. Wow, special. Sipra Yemena. Then you shove the bull with him, and you have you speak stories and mamish idle talk. Then once you start talking with him idle talk, you're not such a golden. She's silver. You become silver. Once you start taking favors from him, and you take matanas, then you're similar to a jug from earthenware. Once a cheres breaks, there's no takana. No more respect. He loses all the respect. That you shouldn't say to matanas for Talmidei Chacham especially, and they shouldn't speak idle talk with Amaratzim because they lose their level. The level in kedusha.
Avoid talking to simple people.
Avoid. Yeah, if you're speaking in Torah of Hashtetza, but idle talk is not a right.
Politics.
Idle talk with somebody in the lower level, or even about Tshuva, you have to be careful. You're speaking a different way. Okay, Imrasa Bas Toli. Imrasa was her name, this daughter of Toli. He was a Kohen. Bas Kohen Shazinsa Havoi. She was considered as a Bas Kohen, and she committed adultery. Havoi Akva Rav Chama Vatuvia Chavilis was Usrafa. Rav Chama, because she committed adultery, he took a whole bunch of twigs of wood, bundles of wood, and burnt her alive. Rabbi Yosef taught
No,
there was
wasn't Bezdin, man. Why
it's not a Bezna, but he made a mistake here. Look what happened. Rabbi Yosef taught Rav Chama Vatati. Rav Chama made a mistake in two things. First of all, Rav Masna. He made a mistake in Rav Masna because Rav Masna said the only way you kill Seifa is nicht verbrennen the goof, is to put light of lead, and throw it down the inside. He also made a mistake in the Braisa. It says it says that they should come to the Kohanim Levim and to the judge of those days. That means in the time when the Kohanim was serving in the Beis Hamikdash, yes, Bishma, then you're done din in the Fashis. But in the time when the Kohanim was nicht badint in the Beis Hamikdash, weren't serving in the Beis Hamikdash. So he made him a mishpat. He wasn't allowed to be done in the Fashis. He had no right. So those are the two mistakes. In the Mishnah, we learned this story. There's a story of Bas Kohen Shazinsa. And what did the Mishnah finish off? Finished off saying that this Bezdin was like a Bezdin Shel Tzdukim. That's what Rashi said. And the Rashi gets it from this Gemara. Amar Rav Yosef, Bezdin Shel Tzdukim Hava. What does it mean? They don't accept the Torah Sheba'al Peh, meaning the Gzeda Shabbat that we brought a raya, only the inside gets burned and the goof remains. No, they say when the Torah says Seifa is a verbrent hals, that's it. We burn the goof too. The Tzedekим shoot them. They don't make these Gzeda Shabbats up. Not that's clear. Only the insides die. Another Vavio. The same thing. The Rebbe Lezer said to the Chacham this question, and this is how the Chacham answered. Meaning, Rebbe Lezer told him the story, and the Chacham answered that's Tzedekим. That's not the story. We have the story about Tanya. We learned from Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Lezer Rab Tzaddik. Rebbe Lezer Rab Tzaddik said like this. I remember when I was a child and I was being taken around on the plates of my father, on the shoulders of my father. I saw this incident that they brought a Bas Kohen that committed adultery.
How do you know about it? It was no kid.
He was a little kid. Oh no, he was on his father's shoulder. He saw it. And what they did was they put a whole bunch of bundles of branches around her and they burnt her. Amrullah, the Chacham says they stuck up cotton. We were cotton. The aim of I'm in a cotton. He says this story you're telling you're a child. You can't. There's no samchas. There's no raya for your story.
What did he say?
What did he
So
say?
there's what?
What did he say? That
He said he saw this while he was
Same
on his
thing
father's
that they
shoulder as a little child.
He saw this
He saw
happening.
this happening, and they told him, "Listen, you're a little child. Not that that's dukim." He said, "You're a little child. You can't trust you." Okay, so Gemara Shnei Maisim. After the Gemara, really, Shnei Maisim. It's not a contradiction to our Mishnah. There was the story of our Mishnah, and there was this story. There was two stories. Says Gemara, hey, which story did Rebbe Lezer testify about first? Ilay Malka Maisa, Amalu Bereisha. If you're going to say the first one,
story.
meaning the one that says in the Mishnah is the first story, that when he was an adult, Amalahu, so the Gemara says, Kishu Gadol, when he's an adult, they said, we don't accept your words. So, that's what he's saying. What do you think? When he says a story where I said that he was a child, they're going to listen to him. Doesn't make sense. First, this story as a cotton, he said. And they told him to start cotton. Cotton, you are cotton. And then he says, but I have another story. I was adult. They say, good. That Bezdin wasn't a bucky. They were snuking. Next Misa. One of the other Misas is Hereg. You chop off his head. The mitzvah of the Misa of Hanaragin, they knock off his head with a sword. Kedel Shamalchus says so. Yeah, the ISIS. Yeah, Kedel Shamalchus says so, like the Melucha used to do. Yeah, but Yehuda, this is a disgrace for this person. When they knock off his head, his body falls down.
Any mices like this happening?
I don't know.
They do the same thing in
Why does that
France
mean any
also.
mices?
Oh, really? I don't know.
What friend?
Nivul.
Guillotine. It's called a guillotine. They put a person.
Oh, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
the sword comes out. and cuts off.
No, that's not what he's talking about.
Caligula used to put bury people in the ground.
So he said, Yehuda said this is a disgrace, that his body falls down right away when they knock off his head, and the body falls first. That's what it says. Rather, they put his head on a chopping block. And they use an axe. They knock it off with an axe. So he said, there's no more disgusting one than this. It's a problem. Tanya, we don't know, but I said, Yehuda said, I know that killing Besayev misim and uvelasi. I know it's disgusting. Abumaya said, what should I do? It says you shouldn't follow in the ways of the goyim to knock off the head. And I know chopping off the head is even a bigger disgrace, but we have to do the chopping way than the sword, because the sword way is the ways of the goyim, and it says you shouldn't follow the ways of the goyim.
So how do they chop without a sword?
Huh?
How
With
do
an
they chop?
axe.
With an axe.
Yeah. It's a prolonged death. It's hard.
They go and do it with a sword.
With a sword, yeah.
So don't do it with a sword.
That's what he said.
They do a big knife.
But an axe takes longer and it's harder. It's a harsher misa.
A few times.
Says the
What's so funny?
This is a good joke.
Okay, you're right.
No idea the
Fact the
joke.
mother.
No joke.
Otherwise, you can't learn this.
Okay.
Joke.
And what the Rabbanan say, how were they allowed to do that? It says, how did they allowed to use a sword? So you want to keep in the chesiv side b'daraisa. Once the Torah gave the command that one of the Dalet Mises is cherev, that means that we're not learning from the goyim. Once the Torah says that, it becomes ois goyim. Like the Alter Rebbe started in Napoleon Nigen and said it's unser Nigen. It's goyish Nigen. This is the same thing. Once the Torah, it's ours. If you're not going to say that, I'll bring you a different problem. Other Tanya, this that we learned in the Brayso, it says you burn all the klei tashmisham once a king passes away. So all the combustible stuff that he has that could burn, we burn it of a melech. By a melech that passes away. And this is really the derech hameri. That's what they did after each king. But we say it's not called mendach hameri. Why?
What's dark
Well, why do you used to burn it?
What?
What's the dark Amor you're talking about here?
By burning a king, if the Jewish king passed away, we burn those possessions that are burnable.
It's possessions. If
Yeah. So, So that was the derech of the Hamedi also.
They used to burn the
Yeah. So he says, Rashi says, isn't it the derech? This should be us. It's how can we burn a Jewish king after he passes away, his clothing or whatever? You shouldn't follow the ways. And the Gemara keeping the chesiv safe, you have to say, because the Torah said that you should burn it. The Torah says, oh, Salam, and now you come in. Then it's not considered we're learning from the Derech HaMeiri. So too, when it comes to the Dal of Mrs. Bezdin, which one of them is safe, is Herek by chopping off the head. Even the Siv, Sayyid, B'daisa, it's not considered that we're learning from the guy. From the guy. In fact, this that we learned from the Mishnah B'dich in another Perek. You might have said the beast of Sayyid is written in the Torah. So we want to know where is it. It says, over here. These are the people that get killed. The Sayyid, a murderer, says, I see. It's Ksivu. It says openly in the Torah. It says befeish, you should kill them by sword. What does it say about a Ritzeach that he gets killed becherev? It's like one of the Tanya, because it says, we learned in the Braise, it says in the Torah, if a man will hit his evet or his maid with a stick and knock him, so revenge shall be taken on that person who killed him. What is this Nakima? How do I know what kind of a misa is Nakima? It says, we find another place where it says Nakima and it attaches it with the word Cherev. It says, so it says Cherev with the word Nikemes. So you see, wherever it says Nikima means with Cherev. Nikima is Usayim. So I say Nikima means with a sword. Yep. In fact, the maybe it means to stech him, to stab him in the stomach or in his throat. Yeah, so it says fi. Fi is like it says Pafias means two sides. It means the body of the sword has to kill him, not the spitz from the sword, not the point of the sword. Okay, I hear you. Maybe you have to cut him in half. How do you know what it means to cut off his head? Maybe to slice the body in half.
Can we just skip a little bit?
Well, we're going there. It says in the Pasuk, it says, love your fellow Jew. It says, choose the easiest Misa, which means not to split him in half.
That's called tough love.
And not knock off his head. That's the nicest way. So you want to have a pasuk by killing a slave. Revenge is done through a sword. How do we know if somebody kills somebody who's not a slave that he also gets killed? Isn't it a kavachayma? If he kills a slave, which is half human in our eyes, he's a slave. He's like Mammon. And he gets killed B'sayev. Is on a much higher level. He's a free person. We should give him the lighter punishment. Somebody who killed somebody who's Malchesher should get a harsher punishment. It's like, that's only according to the Mandama that says Chenek, Kal, that Chenek is the lightest out of the Dalet Mises, even lighter than Eric. But according to Mandama that says Chenek is more severe, what are you going to say? How do you know Ben Chayrin gets Sayev? Maybe Taki gets Chenek, because a Ben Chayrin is a Cheshev person than a Evet. So you have to give someone who kills a Cheshev person has to get something higher than Sayev. He has to get Chenek. So we learn it out from a Braise. What does it say? It says, it says by the Eglah Arufa, if they found the mace between two cities, so the closest city, the Bezdin would take a calf and knock him on the neck and cut him. So every murderer is compared to what we do to the Eglah Arufa. Malahalon, just like by Eglah Arufa, it's B'sayif with a sword, and Min Hatzabo by the neck. So Avkam B'sayif Min Hatzabo. So too here, by a murderer, he gets with the sword and by the neck. Malahalon B'kayf, there it's with an axe when you're dealing with the animal, not with a sword. And it's from the back, not from the front. I've got maybe because it's a mulayif, so too by a murderer we should say an axe and from the back. It says in the pasuk, you have to love your fellow Jew as yourself. But you have to choose the reason.
Sword is easier.
A sword is much faster, much easier. We said before, Rashi says it's a faster death, and then from the front you're getting rid of the two simanim. In the back, the simanim on the front, and it will go much faster. Yeah.
Too many bones in the back.
Yeah.
And it still goes without the Rachel Kamecha.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, listen, it's like a pachoja that we had with the Chadikov when we used to get 120 a month for learning Koila,
Yeah.
and the Rebbe said he should give a raise, so he gave a raise $1.
Wow.
We got 121 for the month. He used to get 120 a month, and the Rebbe made a sturm. We should give the
year-
Koila.
which
You
year
got
was
like
this?
a raise.
But you're in the later years. When that was Mikhail Tufshin Lamed,
Yeah.
they used to give $72.
Oh, you're
So there's
How much?
72.
72.
72.
72. So they came to the Chadikov and said he understood it because $18 a week, and that's how you do it. So but there are more than 4 weeks in a month. So the Chadikov answered that even Ein Beis and 72 means Chesed. Chai $1 a week and Chesed a month. Chesed is Matre Ein Beis.
Oh, so by us, he said that he gave a raise $1, so they asked him why so much. He said,
$120
120 a month. He gave out the
Which year
extra
was
$1.
How much was red that time?
Tafshin Lamed Ches. So he
This
says,
is Tufshin Lamed.
Kol hanoisim ba'ayin yafan. One who gives has to give it a good eye, and he gave it a good eye. Sagt die Gemara.
He looked on the side anyways.
Mitzvahs hanachanokin.
People in the Koila.
A lot. Mitzvahs hanachanokin. One of the mitzvahs, Dalet mitzvahs, are chenek. Hoy mishakanois ba'zevel adakuvais. They will put him into manure till his knees. Menois and suda kosher l'seiharaka, and they took the hard kerchief and they put it in the soft limit, and they put it around his neck. Both aid them, each aid would pull from one side. Still his neshama went out. It says in the pasuk.
They just have to do it.
Yeah.
They can't give it to somebody.
That's what it says. Shnei aidim she'idu negdoi oichazim b'shnei kotzeis hasudorim. And they hold on. Okay. So it says in the pasuk, Ish asher yinaf, as Ish asher yinaf, as Israel. We're going to talk about this pasuk. Ma'is yumas hanoya ba'anoafas. So it says Ish. What do we learn out? Ish prat lekatan. It says Ish to exclude a cotton. That if a cotton lived with a married woman, then there's you don't have ena chayv misa. Asher yinaf as Eishes Ish. That will live with Aisha's Ish. She was married to a man, Prat, Aisha's cotton. Excluding if a woman was married to a cotton, that's not considered as a real marriage. Aisha's Ayu, it says the wife of his friend. What is he coming to tell us? Prat, Aisha's to exclude if the woman was married to a guy, so it's not Chal, the Kedushin. Mois Yumas, wherever it says stop Mois Yumas, that's Mechanik. Maybe when it says Mois Yumas, it means other Mises. It says wherever it says the word Lash Misa, you're not allowed to be Machmer. You have to take, if there's 4 Mises and it just says Mois Yumas, you choose the lightest one. So that's how we know it's supposed to be Chanek. Rabbi Yonasan, I argue, Chanek is more harsh than Chanek. It's the lightest Misa. Choke. They take both sides of the kerchief and they pull till he can't breathe anymore. He's done. No. Rabbi Yonasan, that's clear. Rabbi Yonasan, not because it's light. If I can, he holds the Chanek is harsher. Because wherever it says Misa, it means only choking. Where do we see that? Rabbi Yomer, the klal is learned from here. It says Nema Misa b'dei Shamayim, v'Nema b'Misa b'dei Adam. It says the word Misa by Misa b'dei Shamayim. It says Misa by b'dei Adam. Ma Misa amur b'dei Shamayim, Misa shein Shem b'Reishim. Just like by Misa b'dei Shamayim, you don't see a Reishim in the goof. He had a natural heart attack, but the goof wasn't harmed. Af Misa amur b'dei Adam, Misa shein b'Reishim. So too the Misa that happens by a person when it says Ma'is Yumas, it has to be similar to the Misa b'dei Shamayim, not harming the goof. In fact, the Gemara Beimel is safer. Safer is not harming the goof; it's only on the inside. So the Gemara Bas Kayin b'Sefer. Since the Torah says only which one gets safer, Bas Kayin is Meklal the whole Bas Sefer. So we know that the other ones are not Bas Sefer. So the Gemara Bishleim Rabbi Yonasan Kid the Kamer Farish Rabbi Tama. It makes sense according to Rabbi Yonasan that we learn out from Misa b'dei Shamayim. Rabbi Yesha says you give the lightest Misa. From where do you know that there exists a fourth Misa called Chanek? Ema Sayif. Maybe there's only 3 Misas, and say the lightest one is Sayif. Says Gemara Hamarava, Abba Misas, the 4 Misas. Gemara, it's halacha l'meish Sinai.